So Frank, you've launched a clearinghouse using blockchain technology. Explain to me kind of how this works and why this isn't just a gimmick at a time when everybody's looking for ways to use blockchain technology.
Well, first of all, the market is in pain at the moment. The credit lines are actually diminishing everywhere. Banks are pulling out of the market from the Prime Brokerage perspective, and central clearing is a solution that's really sorely needed. We have actually decided to use the blockchain technology because it offers transparency for our members, and they can basically see at all times what's happening to their assets.
And why isn't, lots of people are moving to the prime of prime space rather than the PB space. Why isn't that a solution that people can just use, right? Why does it need to be centrally cleared?
Well, the prime of prime offering in the market is in fact a stack of costs. So a prime of prime broker is a reseller of a bank's service. And the banks are notoriously inefficient in the way they're clearing FX. So the prime of prime, in fact, is taking his own cost to basically make a living on top of those of a bank. He has also a very frail position where his own service provider is not too sure that he wants to continue to do that. So it's really not a nice position, and it's not a very stable or, let's say, forward-looking solution.
And why have we got to this place where credit is becoming such a challenge for so many people? Did it purely turn on the SMB incident, or is there more to it than that?
Well, I think the SMB was a trigger. The reality is that when you look at the margin that's required for trading on FX on, let's say, G10, generally 2 to 4%, it's very small. It's in fact not enough. It's not enough for 100% of cases. It's enough for 98, 99% of cases. And the banks, the service providers of Prime Brokerage, are happy to take the risk of the last 1 or 2% because there is a commercial interest. The SNB has just made everybody understand that the commercial interest needs to be pretty large to actually take such a risk as a potential movement like the SNB. We will have some movement like the SNB once every 5 years, maybe once every 10 years. At least that's what we've seen in the past. And commercially, it's something that's acceptable only for the best of the best customers. If you are going to take medium-size or smaller-size customers, you need to pool resources with all market participants, like a clearinghouse would do, to make it palatable.
And when I think of a clearinghouse, I think of something big that needs scale, that needs a lot of capital behind it. I mean, how do you build that scale, or do you not need it because of the technology you're using?
We actually do need that scale. In fact, there are two reasons why scale is important. The first one is the trust of the participants, the trust of the members. And for that, technology is part of the answer. For us, using the blockchain makes it very transparent of what's happening to the assets of the members, and that gives them the trust in our business that we need. The second part is the regulation. We are right now totally focused on spot FX because spot FX is not a financial instrument both in Europe and in the US. But as we expand, and we believe that after probably a year from now, we will have enough, let's say, proven to the market that the solution is really a benefit to the industry. We will go back to the market and raise some capital to become a regulated clearinghouse in Europe, and that's obviously scale and capital.
Yeah. And in terms of the regulatory environment, I mean, how do you get regulated as a blockchain-based technology or company? Are the regulators up to date with the technology? How does that work?
There are some regulators that are actually quite advanced and are interested in technologies of this kind. The FCA in the UK has been looking at many different solutions to actually enhance the market and to cut the costs. I know that a few central banks around the world, again, England is one of the first to look at practical solutions to make the market safer and cheaper and more efficient. But I think in the end, the technology you're using is not what's important. It's actually your approach to risk and the way you manage risk for the participants.
And when you go into financial services firms and you talk about your new offering, how you're using blockchain technology, do you encounter a certain degree of skepticism in terms of there seems to be a lot of people touting various blockchain, distributed ledger solutions to all kinds of problems. I mean, do you feel like there's a bit of skepticism or fatigue from financial services firms in that regard?
Well, not really fatigue. I can see that a lot of banks obviously have an interest because they know that the market will evolve and the market will probably potentially be disrupted by the technology. They don't really know how it's going to happen, and they don't know how to use it themselves. So in general, the incumbents are going to look at what's going on with the new fintech companies, and probably the winners of this game will be bought by very large incumbents. Our approach is that we think that there is basically a lot of efficiencies that the market needs to gain from these kind of technologies, and we're focused 100% on these efficiencies for now.
Okay, and I mean, in terms of you then, what are the next steps for you as you kind of look to build out this business?
The next step for us is very clearly membership. We are interested to gain memberships because they bring solidity and growth to our business. So we're focused on gaining, most of all, liquidity providers, whether they are banks or non-banks. Traditionally, the non-banks are more interested in that sort of centrally cleared solutions because they have experience in the futures market. But in reality, recently we had some large banks also wanting to join, and that's what we are processing right now. So for us, the next step in the growth is definitely gaining memberships.
So when we did our conference in London earlier this year, we did a survey, and one of the questions was, what do you view as the biggest kind of headwind to FX market growth? The answer that gained the most votes was credit challenges. Since then, we've had the BIS survey come out. The volume's contracted for the first time since 1999. Do you think that that's related, or that evidences some of the credit challenges people are having?
Yeah, it's totally related. Accessing the FX market is too difficult. When you look at other asset classes, it's actually much more difficult to participate to the FX market than it is to futures or to some commodities. So you've seen that last year currency futures have gained nearly 30% in terms of volume compared to the year before, when every other futures asset classes have gone down. So really there is an unease. The banks are still interested to obviously price and trade, but they are no longer willing to offer their credit lines to other people to access the market, and that's the problem. That creates a gateway, that creates a bump to access the market.
But if I wanted to alleviate some of those credit challenges, I decide to go down the centrally cleared route, right? Why would I not go to a more established clearinghouse like an LCH, or if I'm trading on a Eurex or CME platform, use that clearinghouse rather than some sort of new upstart to the market, if you don't mind me saying?
Yes, of course. Well, first, they don't offer it. Right now, if you go to established clearinghouses, what they have done is basically they've answered the challenge that the regulators have raised, and basically regulators are interested in centrally clearing the complex derivatives, the long-dated instruments. So the complex derivatives is not a very large part of the market. The largest part of the market is spot FX. Banks do not have any problem in spot FX because it doesn't encumber their balance sheet. It doesn't really cost them in terms of capital requirements. 2 days later, it disappears. It is the non-banks that are actually very much in demand, or let's say in need of a solution for clearing spot FX. So the market is a bit split between banks and non-banks, between let's say regulated products and non-regulated products. We've been looking at servicing people who are generally consumers of Prime Brokerage, generally the non-banks or the smaller banks, and this part of the market definitely needs access and definitely is served by central clearing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Frank.
Thank you.